I'm Brianna Shigo. Welcome back to my Tuesday tips. Today, part 2 of the actual offer to purchase the home. There are a lot of terms on this page, so I'm going to take my time explaining it to all of you. First thing, seller credit, if any, to buyer. You as the buyer could ask for credit, money, to be paid at closing, or you can ask the seller to pay off loan points. There's lots of options, but it really just depends on the market and what the seller is willing to negotiate. Then there's space for any additional financing terms. And then there's a box that says seller agrees to pay the obligation of buyer to compensate buyer's broker under a separate agreement. So say that you as a buyer and your agent made an agreement that you will pay your agent 2.5% of the purchase price of whatever home you buy. Then say you find this house and you want to write an offer on it, but in the description, the seller's agent wrote, buyer's agent's only going to get paid 2%. So then you'd attach your separate agreement that says, I agreed to pay my buyer's agent 2.5%, and the seller is going to have to pay that extra 0.5% to compensate my agent, okay? Verification of all cash. Do you have all cash? You have to submit it to the offer, or you can specify a later date that you will. Verification of down payment and closing costs, otherwise known as proof of funds. You have to attach this to the offer, or you can submit it whatever days after acceptance, but most realtors require proof of funds with the offer. Verification of loan application. Most realtors will require that with your offer, you submit a proof of funds and a pre-approval, okay? That's why it's so important to get a pre-approval and talk to a lender, but you can submit pre-qual, pre-approval, or fully underwritten pre-approval. Final verification of condition. About 5 days before escrow closes, you're going to walk through the property one more time with your agent and just make sure that everything looks about the same as when you wrote the offer. Nothing's damaged or anything like that. Assignment request. Are you going to be assigning this to somebody else? You have 17 days by default, or you can specify. Contingencies. It's extremely important to pay attention to timelines regarding your contingencies. They're all 17 days by default, but you can shorten them up, which makes the deal a little bit sweeter for sellers, okay? Loan contingency. You have 17 days. If you have cash, you have no loan contingency because you're not getting a loan. Appraisal contingency, 17 days. The lender deals with the appraisal, schedules it, all that stuff. We'll just see the results. So that's kind of dependent on the lender. Investigation of property. These are all of your inspections. So investigation of property, informational access to property, those are inspections. Usually we like to shorten those to about 10 days if possible. Review of seller documents. The seller is going to provide a lot of disclosures about what they know about the property, and it's extremely important that you read and understand and acknowledge all of those documents. So by default, you have 17 days to do so. Title report, 17 days. Common interest disclosures. Are there anything that you're sharing about the property? 17 days. Review of leased or liened items. Anything weird? 17 days. Sale of buyer's property, okay? Do you have to sell the home that you currently live at in order to purchase a new home? You gotta check that box and add another form in, okay? Possession, time of possession. Are you gonna get keys right when it records, when the loan funded, when everything's good to go, or are you gonna get keys at a later date? Seller occupied or vacant units. Are there tenants currently in there, okay? Have they been given notice? We need proof of that. And then documents, fees, compliances, seller delivery of documents. The seller has 7 days by default to provide all of their disclosures and everything to you. Sign and return escrow holder provisions and instructions. You have 5 days by default to sign and acknowledge and return all of escrow's paperwork. Time to pay fees for ordering HOA documents. So if the property is in an HOA, they have 3 days to do that, okay? Wrapping it up, install smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and making sure the water heater is braced. That needs to be done 7 days after offer acceptance by the seller. And evidence of representative authority. So are you purchasing this home? Is an entity purchasing this home? You just got to specify that. Sorry that was so long. Lots and lots of information. Very important. There's a little bit of nitty-gritty details that I'll get into in later videos, but I hope that made it easier for you to understand all of these words because there are so many words on this page and they mean so much. So, as always, let me know if you have any questions, and yeah.